Uh, I
Yes, I
This
am
was
now
actually
recording.
all right. This was actually Miss Prudence's idea for a topic because I didn't know what to talk about this month. So I thought this would be something that you guys could probably get something out of. And well, we always start with the pledges. So somebody said they'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't catch who it was, but go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for you. All right, and I think we've got somebody lined up to do the 4-H pledge. And here's the words.
I pledge my heart for clear thinking, my heart for greater loyalty, my hands for larger service, my health for better living, my club, my community, my country, and my world.
All right. Thank you all very much. So, some club business. First of all, I don't know. I can't tell. I had somebody contact me from California. We don't have a whole lot of people on the night for some reason. I don't know why. But is our friend from California on? I can't. I can't tell if they are or not. I don't think they are. I think everybody. I had a lady from California email me earlier today. She said her daughter's homeschooled and she loves chickens and could she be in our club even though she lives in California? And I said, well, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I know they have 4-H in California too. So I sent her the link and I was curious. She said the time difference wouldn't make a difference because I don't know what time it is in California. I guess they're 3 hours behind us. Anyway, um,
I think she did join and then thought it was the wrong thing because she left because there was like a thing that said Samsung A40 or something like that.
oh, I don't know. I was just curious if she joined us. I don't know. Maybe she'll join us at some. We may have a new friend from California. I don't know. We used to have a kid from Kansas that joined us for a year or two. Uh, so maybe who knows? Maybe we'll get somebody from California. But how's all your poultry projects going? Are your chickens laying? They ought to be laying real good. Mine are. Mine are laying really well. Everybody getting plenty of eggs.
Yeah, I currently have a broody.
You got a broody hen? She's sitting on fertile eggs. You don't let her hatch?
Probably. We
Okay,
know we're
cool.
gonna let her do it. It just I'm not sure she'll let me get under her,
Yeah.
and I don't want to stress her out because
You don't want to stretch it.
she's a first timer. So
Oh, okay. Well, how about um, any update? I know we just came through February, March, April. That's kind of the main show season. Has anybody got any updates from their local poultry shows that you want to share how you did? Any ribbons or trophies or anything you all want to show off? And I'm gonna put in chat a link to the 4-H record book. And if you want to do a 4-H record book for poultry, there it is. And I'm sure your local county has a record book contest. And if you don't, send me your record book and I'll judge it and send you a prize if you want to do one. There's a lot of good stuff. It's a good habit. One of the good things we teach in 4-H is record keeping. And whether you're not your poultry enterprise is profitable or not. And there's all kinds of records. And if you need help with that, we can talk about that at another meeting, or you can always email Miss Prudence and we can help you with your record books. Miss Prudence was curious about Avian Bowl. Avian Bowl, I guess this will be the fourth annual Florida 4-H Avian Bowl contest. Will be June 13th at the Alachua County Extension Office. And that's in Newberry, Florida. And I've got the address. Registration is in 4-H online. The contest starts at 10 a.m. So be there by like 9:45 to sign up. And you can compete as a team if your county has at least two members your age and your same age group, junior, intermediate, or senior. You could be a team. A team can be from 2 people to 4 people. And if you don't have, if you're the only person that you know that's interested, come anyway, and we'll make a team up there. We'll put you with somebody, so you'll be on a team. And the winning junior team will win something. The winning intermediate team will win something, and then the winning senior team, not only will they win the contest, they get to go to the national contest in Louisville, Kentucky in November at the 4-H Poultry and Egg Conference in Louisville, Kentucky. They'll be one of the many contestants there. So that's a lot of fun. So Avian Bowl, June 13th. Maybe at the end, if we have time, I'll read you a few sample Avian Bowl questions to see if it's something that you are interested in. I don't know if Miss Prudence is checking chat.
I'm checking. We're good.
Okay. All right. So tonight we're talking about transporting poultry. And this is something of interest to you guys, especially that show poultry, because you want to keep your birds looking good. We've talked in the past about showmanship, and part of showmanship, of course, is, in my mind anyway, is before the show, getting your birds ready for show, proper washing of the bird and sprucing them up to look good. But that's not the only tale of the story. The other part of the story is getting them to the show without messing up their feathers or getting them all dirty, and properly transporting the birds. So for you show poultry folks, it's very important to know how to properly transport birds safely. For those of you who just have backyard layer flocks, you might bring chickens to a swap meet to sell your old chickens, or buy chickens somewhere and bring them home, or you might buy even chicks at the feed store to bring home. You still need to know how to properly transport birds. And so it's a good thing to talk about. And it'd probably be a little bit of a faster meeting tonight, but let's just talk about why you think we might need to transport birds. What are some other things you can think about why you might want to transport chickens or turkeys or geese or whatever from one place to another?
Maybe if you move, like from one house to another, to a new house or a farm,
Yeah,
and you need to get your chickens there.
yeah, that's true. People do move, even people that have homesteads move, and so you may need to move your whole farm, your whole operation from one place to another. So that's absolutely right. Anybody else want to throw out there why you might need to move birds around?
You might buy it to go out of state. From out of state, you need to carry them for shows and to go to the vet.
Right, yeah, absolutely, Memney. That's true. I know some people probably had to move birds last year. Maybe one of the what do you have, 2 or 3 hurricanes that we dealt with last year? And sometimes people need to evacuate. If you're in a low-lying area, you may need to move your whole flock somewhere safe to get out of the way of a storm. So there's all sorts of reasons. I put some down here.
And Dr. Chris, in the chat, it says to go to the vet.
Oh yeah. That's another, if you've got an avian vet that you work with and you've got some birds you need looked at, yeah. So here's some things I jotted in. You already all mentioned these. Bringing birds to a show, that's probably the most common for our audience here. Purchasing new birds and bringing them home. Bringing birds to a show and tell somewhere. Like you guys, if you're in 4-H, I know that we've got some 4-H clubs, like when they do a Tractor Supply, this thing where you can donate $1 to 4-H, a little paper clover deal. Some of our 4-H clubs will go set up little like information booths down there to just educate the general public on 4-H. And one of the popular ones is bringing some chickens for people to see. People like to look at chickens, especially little children. And so you might do a program at school sometime. Like, I don't know if they have a day where you can bring something you're interested in school. Maybe they let you bring some of your chickens. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons you might want to move chickens around. And so you got to know how to do it safely. So when transporting birds, and then Miss Prudence, I will say, is probably a bigger expert on this than me, because she goes to a lot more poultry shows than I do. So if I say something wrong, or if she wants to add something, she can always interrupt me.
Well, and Dr. Chris, I just put in the chat, I take chickens to school's part of my embryology lessons. So I will, like last week, I had chickens 2 days in a row in my vehicle, going because we're trying to, right before the end of the school year, everybody wants to hatch chickens. So we have 3 schools going right now. So I went to 3 different schools with my birds, transporting them.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons to have to move birds. So when you're transporting your birds around, you want to keep them safe. You want to protect their feathers, especially, if you're going to a show or if you're even if you're selling them, you want to keep their feathers safe because you want them to look their best. You want to keep them secure. You're in a moving vehicle, and a lot of things can go wrong, and so you want to keep them secure. But you also want them to be easy enough for you to pick them up and move them around. And so, how do we do this? What do you all do when you transport? Is this something you think about, like actively think, I need to bring my birds to the fair, I need to bring my birds to the vet or wherever. How am I going to get them there? Or do you just grab them and put them in a cardboard box and throw them in the trunk of your car and hope for the best? Like, talk me through your process of how you safely move your birds around when you're
I don't.
almost sure what they do.
I personally don't go to shows, but honestly, I would probably just pick it up and have it on my lap with a napkin the whole time.
Hold them on your lap. Oh, I mean, fair enough. That's one way to get them there. Hold them on your lap with a napkin on your lap, I'm guessing, to kind of protect you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good
Lily,
answer there.
I have some I could do that with, but I have to drive, and I drive a stick shift. So I put mine in a cat carrier because I usually, when I go, I either take young birds or my Old English game bantams. So I will put them in a cat carrier, and I have a specific little Rubbermaid tub where I put their food in it, and that's part of the perk of going to the school is that they get an all-you-can-eat buffet on the ride. So they're well fed the whole time they're in the car. And then I have a little dog waterer it's actually my dog's, that will I give them water when we get there. So that's how I transport mine. But even if I go to the furthest school in our county, they're only in the car for like an hour and 15 minutes at a time.
But if it's 95 degrees out, they can get hot in a little box in an hour. I mean, they can.
Well,
So
and
you-
that's another thing. I do keep them in the cab of the vehicle with me, where it's climate controlled. But I do make sure that the air vent is not like blowing right on them because they can't get away from it if they're in a cat carrier. And
Yeah.
so I always make sure that they have air where they're at, but not direct air. And then I also will put the carrier, depending on which vehicle I'm in, I will put it on the floorboard because if I have to slam on the brakes, that's where it's going to end up. Or if in like my car, it won't fit on the floorboard because I don't have very much room. I have a smaller car, my personal vehicle, so I will put them in the front seat and then seat belt them in.
Seatbelt them in. Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else want to share how you move your birds around if you've done it before? Well, let's see. A good way to, if you've never done it before, or if you're going to your first show, let's say or maybe you're going to your 10th show, I don't know. A good thing to do, and this is probably a good pro tip anytime you try anything, is learn from others. And I mean, you may say, well, no kidding. But what I mean by that is, even if it's your 20th show, there's somebody there who is their 50th show. And there's always somebody, a little more experienced than you that you can learn from. And I'm not trying to say this in a competitive way. I'm just saying learn from the people who've been there before and done things. And you can always gain new tips and stuff. Maybe they do things just a little bit differently, or maybe a way you didn't think about it. And maybe it's not a better way. Maybe it's just a different way. And you can decide, well, I like my way better. But you know these other ways from watching other people. So there's all sorts of different show boxes and transport cages. There's about as many different kinds as there are exhibitors. And so you can look around and see when other people are showing up and I've been to some of these chicken shows. You see them in dog kennels and cat carriers and like commercial poultry stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of ways people use to move their birds around. And so next time you go to a show, I want to, especially on check-in day, when you're waiting there to get your chickens looked at by the FDACS inspectors, to make sure they can look around and see what everybody's carrying their chickens at. I think you'd be amazed at the variety. And you also need to make sure, if you're showing turkeys or geese, you're going to have a whole different system than if you're showing little bantams. And so you've got to take into account the size of the bird that you're going to move. You can, I think Lily, somebody said cardboard box. Maybe I joked about a cardboard box, but you can successfully use a cardboard box if you do it right. They make these like alcohol boxes, like they actually are pretty well suited for. I'm not advocating you all go hang out at the liquor store, and please don't think I said that, but these boxes that like bottles come in have little partitions. Sometimes they work very well for moving like bantam short distances. And
yeah, and the bottoms are reinforced in that kind of box too.
Yeah. And so if you have to use a box, those are good ones to actually use. They're kind of bantam size. So those little, where the bottles would go. And you can put some shavings down there and probably have a pretty good way if you can figure out a way to have the top where the birds can get some air, it's not a bad way to move them around. People have all kinds of different ways to move chickens. And so I don't want to say there's no wrong way to do it, because there's a lot of wrong ways to do it, but there are a lot of right ways to do it. I will say that. So you need a good cage of some sort. It could be wooden, it could be plastic, it can be wire, it could be a cardboard box if it's the right cardboard box. And I wouldn't go to a national show across the country with a cardboard box, but if you're just going a few minutes down the road, it might work just fine. So the first aspect to consider is the need of your bird. And some birds are heavier feathered than others. Some need special, like if you're showing Phoenix, for instance, you've got very long tails, those long, beautiful tails that they have. The worst thing you want to do is damage those beautiful tails you worked for months and months, or sometimes years on growing, and have feather damage on the way to the show. So certainly the size for the bird that you're showing and the type of bird you're showing has to be considered. Temperature, I mentioned temperature because, and here we are in Florida, it's typically hot most of the year. And our birds, as you know, can get very hot very quickly. And it's already stressful. You're catching the bird and putting them in a kind of a secure place, which can already stress them out. And then you add the temperature and humidity onto that, and you can have a bird get overheated pretty quickly. And so you've got to, and Miss Prudence battles that by putting her birds, when she moves them in the front of her car in the climate controlled area, so they're not exposed to the extreme heat that they would be, say, in the back of a pickup truck. Now, if you got the right cage and the right kind of shade, then the back of a pickup truck might be perfectly fine. So it all depends, but you don't want those birds to get their body heat up to a certain point to where they're going to start having problems. Does that make sense to everybody? You want to keep them comfortable because you want them to look good at a show, or if you're selling them, you want them to look good for the potential buyer. And so you've got to have that. They need to be kept comfortable. And that's true for any animal in any form of agriculture. If you're selling steers, if you're selling hogs, comfortable animals are healthier animals. And also they produce even a better carcass if they're going to be used for meat. A calm animal has a much better tasting meat, produces much better tasting meat. The same thing with chickens, by the way, the chickens are going to be processed. If those birds are excited and their heart's beating fast and their adrenaline's flowing, the meat's not going to be as good. And so, as animal agriculturalists, it's our job not only to provide for the animal's welfare, but even for our own end product will be much higher if we take their welfare into consideration and keep them calm and make them feel protected. And it's better for them and better for us. Uh, so I put here putting a heavy feathered bird in a very close transport can be disaster. Those birds that have a lot of feathers, they can get hot, be just as disastrous. So if you're, February going to the state fair, I know we live in Florida, but it can also get pretty cold in February sometimes. So if you're driving from North Florida down to Tampa and you've got your birds in the back of the truck and it's 60 degrees out and say drizzling rain, that could be just as bad as having the birds get overheated. They could get too cold. So check the weather forecast, and you all are smart, and your parents are smart, so you all can work together to come up with a good solution. But you don't want to get to a show and open your box and find a bird that's expired. That would just be terrible. I mean, that would be terrible for the bird and terrible for you all. So just make sure that you've got a good solution of transporting your birds safely on the way to the fair. And it may seem like I'm wasting time talking about this, but I don't want any of you all to have to experience this. And so you want to take, if it's a long trip, more than, if it's several hour trip, you need to think about ventilation becomes an even bigger consideration. And ventilation means like airflow. The bird can get a good supply of air, but also on those longer trips, you need to think about waterers and feeders. Can the bird have access to water at least ever so often, or maybe continuously during the trip? Now, the challenge is if you do it continuously, can they do it without getting filthy? And so sometimes it's good to stop and water them and give them a little feed, let them settle down a little bit, and then continue. So sometimes if you put that stuff in the cage with them, it just makes a big mess. So these are all decisions you've got to make. So it sounds like, well, I'm going to bring my chicken from Miami or from Tallahassee to Tampa to show at the state fair. Well, there's a lot more that goes into that than you think. The longer you go, the more challenging it is. Any questions or comments? All right, so an ounce of prevention, there's an old saying that I'm sure you've heard before, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So once you have selected the proper transport cage for your birds, and no matter what it is, you need to check for anything that could injure your bird. Is there any wire sticking out or a nail maybe that you didn't see sticking out? You want to make sure it's this nice, safe surface. You don't want anything that could injure the bird, injure you, or injure their feathers if it's a show bird. And you want to make sure the box is clean and disinfected before heading to the show. So get your cage clean and you can disinfect it. And it's a good idea if you have time at the show before you get ready to go home, disinfect it again. And if it's better for show birds, realistically, if you can have one bird in one slot. Now, I know sometimes that's not realistic. You've got one cage and 3 birds, and they're all going to have to be roommates for a few hours. But if you do have an opportunity to have one bird in one slot, it is better. And especially on the way home, if one bird picked up a little bug, have always when I have one slot, I understand. Not really. You don't want birds fights. Another possibility if you put them together. Let's talk a little bit about bedding. So we need to talk about bedding as well. Large wood chips aren't as good probably as the smaller wood chips. And then sawdust is also, it's kind of like Goldilocks. You remember the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears? Have y'all heard that story? One bowl of porridge was too hot, one bowl of porridge was too cold, and one bowl of porridge was just right. That's how the bedding for these birds are. Too big is not good, and then too little is not good. Sawdust can make a mess and get them dusty looking. So you want just right. And the fine wood, the thin or fine shavings are probably going to be just right for moving birds to a show. And then here's some final thoughts. Storing your transport cages. So when you get home, if you've got this, and I've seen people, Joe Walter, you all know Mr. Joe, excuse me, Joe Walter, who comes on our meetings sometimes. He also helps run the show at the state fair. He's a retired county agent with a degree in poultry science. Do you remember Mr. Joe? White hair and glasses. Comes on our meetings sometimes. He's got these beautiful homemade show bird boxes that he transports birds in, and he made them. And they're wooden little dowels are the sides, and then the tops slide open. He's got like I think 5 or 6 holes where you can put 5 or 6 birds in each little hole. And it looks very similar to this box right here, except he made it. And see how this one slides open, and like you'd have some shavings there. This one has a wire side. Joe's has little dowels, like wooden dowels, and the little box opens up, and then you put the bird in and you slide it closed. So this one would haul 4 birds, say. Well, Mr. Joe's hauls 5. He made it. And it's very cool. And so if you've made something like that, there's the expense of making it, and then you've got the time of making it. You don't want to just throw it out in the rain and have it rot in a year. So you got to have a nice place to keep your stuff, preferably dry. And sometimes that means under a tarp, a nice secure tarp, but sometimes it means a nice place in the barn. So or your garage or wherever you have a spot where you can keep something like that. But I'm assuming most of you probably aren't to the point of, even if you are so wealthy that you could go out and just buy one anytime you needed it, it would be very wasteful, and we don't like to waste things. So if you get a nice transport cage, you want to have a nice place to keep it. And birds can get tired just like we can. So if you've driven halfway across the state of Florida with show birds, they're probably going to be tired just like you when you get to the show. So they need a little time to chill and to drink some water and eat a little feed, fluff their feathers up, and probably preen a little bit. And they're probably going to be groggy the rest of the day, and they may not be. That's why a lot of times we don't. It shows, you have a day where you arrive, and then a lot of times the judging's the following day to give the birds a chance to rest, to give you a chance to clean them back up a little bit. And there are some shows where you show up and show. I mean, I've seen these shows too, but those are usually local shows. Most state shows are several days for that reason. And you just want to get a good process to get a good routine down. A routine of preparing your birds for show and washing them, 2 or 3 days before the show, and then transporting them safely and cleanly, and keeping good track of your materials and cleaning your cages, cleaning your transport cages, and then getting those birds home safely. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing right now and ask if there's any questions, or if Miss Prudence has anything she'd like to add, or if you all have any stories about bringing birds to a show a long way from home. I know Miss Prudence probably does, because she shows birds a lot more than I do. So anybody, first of all, have any questions? And then second of all, anybody want to share any stories about transporting chickens or turkeys or ducks or whatever? Jaden, go ahead. I see Jaden's got his hand up.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's about
Yeah, go
Huh?
ahead.
it's about what you said earlier about the record books. Is that different from the Swanee River record
Yes.
book?
Yeah, what I put on the Swanee River Fair, and a lot of fairs have their own record books. What I shared is the state 4-H poultry record book. And it's some of the similar information. It's different though. So you can look at it and see. And you don't have to do that record book. It's just optional. And if you wanted to talk to if you wanted, locally, if you've already done your local fair record book, you may not need to do another one for local consideration for awards.
Yeah, for stand of excellency, I'm already set because I had to do poultry. I'm already set for stand of excellency. I was just wondering because I couldn't get mine in for the Swanee River Fair record book contest. So I was wondering if it was the same thing and I can just send that one in.
No, it's going to be a little bit different. You could probably transfer a lot of the same information over, but then you'd have to
Okay.
add the stuff because we ask in that book, for instance, number of eggs you've collected each day, and it may be an estimate, but as long as it's a kind of an honest estimate, that would be okay. I don't want you making up a bunch of, oh, well, I got 60 eggs a day from my 30 chickens. Well, I'm going to know that that's not true. But if you've got
Yeah.
15 chickens and you kind of, some days you get 10 eggs, and some days you get 12 eggs, and some days you get 15 eggs, and that's a pretty good estimate. But
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
yeah. Any other questions?
Well, and Jaden, I was going to say sometimes fairs will accept other record books. So I know at our county fair, I don't know what the Swanee County rules are, but we accept the neighboring counties' record book because they have a big show that's not part of their county fair. That's pretty close to ours. So we will accept their record book as well, just so that the child doesn't have to do two whole record books for the same project, essentially.
So Swanee River Fair already happened back in March. That was the Swanee River Fair time, and Swanee River Fair is 3 counties: us, Levy, Gilchrist, and Dixie. And it's FFA and 4-H members, so I don't believe they would accept any other record book. So I believe it's only like, here is our record book, you have to do that record book.
Okay, Dr.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think about us having a record book competition when we start again in the fall? And that could be something that
Well, I
they
think
do as part of this program.
Yeah, I like that idea. If the kids would like it, we could come up with some prizes for the kids for the best record books.
Just have to make it easy because I have so many record books I already do.
Well, it would be an
I do.
option. You wouldn't have to do it. Well, is that something that you all would like? Because we don't want to do it if you all don't want to. I tried it a couple of years ago. Nobody wanted to do it. But if it's something that you all would like, I'd love to have us. I'd open it up to anybody in the state, not just this club that wanted to have a state poultry record book contest. We have a state dairy record book contest. Anyway. All right, anything else on anybody want to share a story about transporting birds? We might have a fast meeting tonight. Everybody's so quiet tonight. Usually everybody's talkative. Lily doesn't have any chickens to show us. Usually she's showing us some new biddy or something. She said she's got a hen sitting on some eggs.
Owen was showing some chickens earlier.
Oh, I missed that, I guess. I was showing my screen. I couldn't see it. Bimini, you got a question?
You know, for a second. Hello.
Hi.
So y'all are going to the Avian Bowl, right?
Yeah, I'll be at Avian Bowl. I'll be running Avian Bowl.
Okay, I think we're going.
I saw your name on the list, so I think you're signed up.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you?
No, this is my first year going.
Oh, okay. You went to poultry. You went to something. Was it poultry judging?
State fair.
Yeah. Okay. I saw you at State Fair. I knew I saw you. Yeah. Well, good. Let me. Yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Chris. Samira, Nadia, and Asher asked if this is our last meeting for this school year. It is, isn't it? Because we don't do it over
Yeah.
the summer, and in
We
June
haven't
we're going to
typically
be
done it over the summer.
yeah.
So
we'll
we
start again in
typically,
September.
yeah, we'll start again in September. If we keep the club, you all want to keep the club going, right? I think a lot of you, we started this club in 2020 for the COVID year, but we had so much fun, we've kept it going now for 5 years. So the next year will be our 6th year. And looks like everybody's shaking their head that they want to stay in the club. So I'm as long as Miss Prudence has helped me, I'm happy to keep it going. Maybe she
Oh, I
will. Maybe
love
she
it.
won't. I'll recruit somebody
We
else.
actually, I will share with the youth. I'm sorry, it got really loud. Um, we this club won an educational technology award at this conference for all that we do with you guys with the website as well. And if you have issues with the website, email me because I think I can fix that
Oh,
because they've
good.
changed some things.
She's good on the computer stuff. I'm gonna read you all a couple of sample avian bowl questions and see if you can answer the question. So, so avian bowl, if you don't know, it's a quiz. It's like you're on a buzzer, and I ask questions about chickens or turkeys or anything poultry science. And if you know it, you ring the buzzer, and then I say your name, and then you give me the answer. And if you're right, you get points. And if your team gets enough points, you win the round. So here's an example of an avian bowl question. This part of the egg is usually always in the larger end of the egg. So what part of the egg is that? And you all should remember this from our meeting we had back in, what was it? October, November, where we dissected eggs. Learned about the parts of an egg. What is the part of the egg that's in the large end of the egg?
The air bubble.
Yeah, close. It's the air cell. So air cell. And to get points in the contest, you have to say air cell. So, but you're right. That's right. So you see, you're learning something. I'm gonna ask you like two more, and then we'll see. We'll probably just dismiss. All right, that's another good one. Here's a true or false. True or false? When candling a fresh egg, it is very easy to see the yolk compared to an older egg because the albumin around the yolk is very thin.
True.
Actually, that is false. As an egg gets more mature, the egg white or the albumin gets thinner. And so, as an older egg, it's easier to see the yolk when you're candling it. So, that was a good guess, though. That's a tough one. Sometimes these true falses are tough. Here's one more. Uh, what organs make up the respiratory system in a bird?
Lungs.
Lungs is one. There's two more. Avian respiratory.
Nostrils.
Well, that's a good guess. That is a very good guess. It's the lungs, the pneumatic bones, and air sacs.
Oh,
Avian respiratory system is much different from a mammalian
look how
respiratory
pretty.
system. Yeah, so you got the lungs, the air sacs, and the pneumatic bones. Because in a bird, our lungs expand and contract. We're mammals. Our lungs expand and contract. Birds' lungs are very rigid. So they have air sacs and pneumatic bones, which are these bones that contain the air sacs, and they expand instead of the lungs themselves. So it's a different sort of respiratory system that birds have compared to humans and mammals. So all right, with that, anything else? Anybody have anything else before we just I'm very proud of you guys. I've really enjoy working with you all in this club, and I'm glad that you've stuck with us now, some of you for 5 years. And some of you, this was your first year, and I hope you enjoyed it. So if you have any friends that like chickens, we'd love to have them. And we may have some new people next year from California. Who knows? I don't know. This lady emailed me today. So anybody have anything else? Bethany, did you raise your hand, or is that from the last time you raised your hand?
So this is the last meeting of the year, right?
Yes, because we'll take off June, July, and August, and then we'll start again in September.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, everybody. Well, you have a wonderful summer and a safe summer. And Miss Prudence, you have anything else you want to say?
No, I will see you all in September.
Yeah. Be thinking about what you want to learn next 4-H year. And you can email me and we will try to teach you whatever you want to know about chickens. ducks and turkeys and everything else. Well, bye everybody. Be safe.